outside the Hub Culture Pavilion here in Davos. It's getting a little chilly. Very delighted to be joined now by Judith Rodin. She's the president of the Rockefeller Foundation. Also got Sam Kass, founding partner of Trove, former White House chef. So, you're launching something called YieldWise, and this is very interesting because it's about the amount of food waste that we produce. Tell me a little bit about it.
Globally, 1/3 of all of the food that's grown is wasted. And when we think about global hunger, there are over 1 billion people who are hungry. That amount of food waste could feed everyone who's hungry. Imagine if you were a moving company and you lost 1/3 of everybody's possessions before you delivered them. That would be intolerable, and yet we're tolerating that amount of food waste all around the world.
Unlike, however, somebody's possessions, this is an item that can actually go off. So how do you deal with it, for example, from the farmer coming to the market?
Well, luckily, there are all sorts of new, very low-cost technologies where farmers can store more of their produce, hermetically sealed cocoons, on-farm processing, that have reached the place where even the smallest smallholder farmer can afford them. And then creating local markets so that the food doesn't have to travel as far and people have access then to fresh fruits and vegetables and produce. We sometimes think that in the developing world they don't like fruits and vegetables, or they love them, but they can't really afford or access them. And then getting large-scale anchor buyers, companies that really would source mango puree or tomatoes or the like, and put them into their global supply chain by linking them all together. So it's really solvable. And the interesting thing has been the corporates have been very responsive. Here we've been kind of pushing against an open door, which has been great.
So we've heard all about farm to table, but what about the vegetables, the fruits that aren't so good looking, the ugly ones? What do we do with those?
Well, those are perfectly good and delicious. They're just as delicious as the other ones, sometimes more actually. I think part of what this is actually capturing the waste that of real food, like we're talking about, either left in the field or rots in our fridge. So that's part of it, and part of it is using, empowering consumers to identify when something's going to go bad and give them the tools they need to prepare it. But I think on the other hand, we also need to reimagine what waste is. We're throwing away a lot of things that that can be used, like broccoli leaves is a delicious, they're greens, those are just like collard greens or other greens. A lot of things that we see as waste right now culturally are actually incredibly delicious. And so part of this is shifting our culture to reimagine what food really is. And in the context of climate change, right now, food and ag is 25% of greenhouse gas emissions. And we simply cannot afford to have almost a third of the land under cultivation producing food that's going to end up in landfills that are going to create more methane and exacerbate our problems. So that's exactly why the approach of the Rockefeller Foundation to invest in creating the models and the incentives to get this project going, but ultimately it's going to be up to business to actually solve this, because this is a supply chain issue for them. And in the end, they're just leaving a lot of money on the table. This is all money for farmers, for businesses, and for consumers. The average American consumer wastes $1,500 on throwing away food in their kitchen. So the model that the foundation is doing is just spot on, and their investment is going to make a huge difference on this issue. So we're really excited.
Thank you, Sam. One more statistic, 66 trillion gallons of water go into this food waste. So that's what drives the entire energy sector of China each year. So we can save all of that water, all of that land, and everybody who's watching and hearing this, there really is something that each of us can do as consumers, and Sam and his colleagues are leading that part of the movement. So top of mind for all of us as we shop, as we cook, as we eat, and then how we throw away, and if we throw away.
My Aunt Patricia always said you use the broccoli and then you cut up the stem. That's actually perfectly good. She always made a whole nother meal out of that.
That's actually the healthiest part, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing to point out is that we're not throwing away the cupcakes and the packaged Twinkies, right? We're throwing away fruits and vegetables, dairy and protein. And that's the nourishment that we need, particularly for low-income communities. This is what they need, but we're all paying the cost. It's not like this is for free. We're paying, it's embedded in our food system costs. So we can actually fundamentally shift how families can afford to eat a much healthier diet. So the potential here is just transformative across the board.
So the benefit is people, planet, and profits. And
Yeah.
all three really benefit
How
by this
fast
work.
do you think we could see this change?
We
made?
think it's a very fast response. That is, we labor over so many global crises, and they are absolutely terrifying in their enormity and impact, but we think that they're so long to the solution.
Yeah.
Our initiative has a goal to cut food waste in half in the next 7 years, at least in several countries in Africa in which we're working, and we can do that in the developed world as well. So it's very quick if people pay attention and make a commitment to this.
Thank you guys very much for stopping by the Hub Culture Pavilion. Of course, we've got our own sustainable mango tartlets.
Right.
We've got our pickled ugly vegetables downstairs
Yeah.
in the cafe. I'm Edie Lush.